Hello, my name is Beau and I did my presentation on fiber optics and splicing. Fiber optics is a means of communication where information is sent over flexible, clear glass or plastic fibers using lasers. There are two different kinds of fiber optic cables, inside plant and outside plant, which are abbreviated ISP and OSP. Inside plant are used inside buildings, and outside plant are buried underground. Therefore, inside plant cables are usually just covered with plastic and Kevlar, whereas outside plant have hard plastic outer shell, which is then followed by aluminum and then some sort of gel or a powder that will turn into gel when it comes into contact with water, and that can also be used to protect against animals chewing into the cable. Then there are different layers of like a weaved Kevlar and cloth and string that provide stability for the fiber, and they just kind of keep everything all together and nice and neat and organized. These outside plant cables are used to create the backbone of the World Wide Web, and they go even from like continent to continent, and they can those can have thousands upon thousands of individual fiber optic strands contained inside of them. For inside plant cables, they are used to go from one telecommunication room inside a building to another telecommunication room, and these telecommunication rooms can be as big as like a server room for Google or Amazon or something like that. They can go all the way down to just like a broom closet size, and even just like a panel in a hallway, or a panel in on the wall in a hallway. Inside the rooms, or these telecommunication rooms, there are mounting racks and then dressing racks, and the mounting racks are used in order to mount panels in which the cable is terminated into, and the dressing racks are overhead racks in which the cable is usually brought in at some point at the top of a wall or on the ceiling, and then the cables are basically routed and zip tied around on these ladder racks until they are fed to which specific panel they're going to be used for. These fiber optic panels are basically just they have a bunch of different ports in which they're two-sided, and you can plug in the cable coming into the back of the ports, and then when you're going to actually use the cable, you can plug in what are called patch cords into the front and create different routes and stuff inside your building for routing the internet around and all that good stuff. Okay, fusion splicing is the act of joining two optical fibers together end to end using heat created by an electrical arc. This is needed in two different situations, outside and inside. When it is done outside, the cable is usually pulled out of a substation. These substations are plastic or fiberglass boxes that are buried with their top not buried, so you can just pull off the lid and grab the fiber out without having to dig it up every time. When this is the situation, when it's outside, a mobile splicing lab is used, and these are usually remodeled like campers or something like that, or they even make custom-made trailers that you can use, and they just have like counter space and then drawers and cabinets and stuff in which to store supplies, and they're used to protect the technician and mainly the fiber from the elements from getting dusty, and because that'll lower the decibel, or that will raise the decibel loss, and you will lose data. When splicing is used inside, it's usually done in an actual telecommunication rooms, and there are two different kinds of these telecommunication rooms: main distribution frames and intermediate distribution frames. These are abbreviated MDF and IDF respectively. Alright, so before you begin splicing, you must set up the cable, and if you're going to do this outside, you must take the cable from the substation or unbury it in the ground if there's some sort of like if it got cut into or something on accident. if you're taking it out of a substation, there will usually be several feet of the cable coiled around, so you can take it out and walk it to your mobile splicing lab. At the end of these are what's called a splice box, and these are airtight hard plastic boxes which are used basically as an underground panel. Sometimes these need to be installed if it's a new project, and then in this case the cable will be cut at a certain point, and the outer layers will be, the outer layers will be taken off, and then the buffer tubes inside of it will be then coiled inside of the splice box. The buffer tubes, which I was just talking about, are they're just plastic tubes which are color coded, and they usually contain 12 strands of fiber, and they're used as protection and also as a means to organize the hundreds or thousands of strands of fiber which are contained inside of said cable. Once the cable has been brought into the mobile splicing lab, it is usually zip tied onto the table so that it's secure, and then whichever strands are being worked on are extracted from the splice box, and they are made neat and nice and ready for splicing. When splicing inside, the telecommunications rooms are usually set up when the building is constructed, and then the cable is pulled in through the ducts in the building and brought into the room, and then set up in what's called a service loop, which is just a big coil, so you have some slack in order to work with. The panels are mounted onto the racks as they are needed by the technicians, and once the panel has been mounted, the cable can be uncoiled from the service loop, and then it's a term called dressed, which basically just means you feed the cable along the overhead racks and zip tie it on there. And this is an important step. You have to make this look nice and neat in order to avoid just mass confusion and just creating a big mess in the server room, and then it'll be hard to find things, and it's a big time waster. And then at this point, the cable can be broken out. The outer layers are taken off, and it is broken, and then just the separate buffer tubes are then put into and coiled around there, or put into the panel. So once you're done setting everything up, you can actually begin the splicing process. And first thing everyone always has to remember is to put on splice sleeves, which are basically like a hot glue gun, kind of a plastic tube, which contain a metal rod inside, and they can be heat shrinked around a fiber or a newly made splice. And these are used just as protection for the bare glass fiber that's exposed once splicing has been done. So once that's done, once all the splice sleeves are put on, you take your beginning two pairs, it's usually blue and blue from the other side, and you will then strip them down to the bare glass, and you'll use this machine called a cleaver, and it cuts the fiber flat, and so that when you put two and two together, they fit, and there's no irregularities in the diameter of the glass. Once they're cleaved, you wipe each of the strands down with an alcohol wipe in order to get rid of any dust, which can create bubbles in the glass. And these bubbles, they'll make there'll be data loss if a splice has a bubble in it, and it can also explode, and then the splice will need to be redone. So it's good to just wipe them down. Now place each of the fibers onto their spots on the splicer, and you can just hit the button and start the splicing program, and it will line the two up and then create an electric arc between them, and it fuses the two pieces of glass together. While this is happening, you're going to want to start beginning to strip down and cleave the next two pairs that are going to be spliced together, and then you just repeat this process until all the fibers have been spliced in that tray. And once that's done, you dress the fibers into their specific tray, which can be a rectangle or a circle, and you just make it look nice and neat, so when somebody has to take them out later, it's not a big mess. And that's pretty much it. So just remember, fiber optics is a means of communication where information is sent over flexible, clear glass or plastic fibers using lasers. And splicing is the act of joining two of these fibers together end to end using heat created by an electrical arc. In order to set up for a splice, if you're outside, you're going to have to deal with substations, and you're going to be working inside of a mobile splicing lab. And if you're inside, you're going to be working in an MDF or an IDF, and you're going to have to dress the cable along the mounting racks and down to the panel. And then for the procedure, put on splice sleeves, remember that, strip, cleave, wipe, splice, heat shrink, repeat over and over, and then dress them in, and remember to clean up after yourself. And that's all. Thank you for your time.